They told her to sit in the back, Mom, a simple phrase that shattered Martha's heart and erased years of sacrifice. Her son, once the center of her world, stood beside his bride, oblivious to the woman who had given everything for him. But Martha didn't cry. She didn't beg for attention. Instead, she walked away, quiet, but burning with resolve. The next morning, her name would be the only one on the deed, her will rewritten. And when Daniel came demanding what he thought was his, he would find only her strength waiting. I'm curious, where in the world are you joining us from? Drop your city or country in the comments and make sure you're subscribed for all the latest updates. Sit in the back, Mom, they said, a simple request that crushed my heart. I made my way to the last row, past rows of gleaming faces, each one celebrating the moment I'd imagined for myself. But instead of being part of it, I was shoved aside, a mere bystander in my son's life. Daniel, the son I raised, hadn't even looked at me when they told me where to sit. I watched him stand next to Lily, his beautiful bride. The joy between them was palpable, but all I could feel was the emptiness in my chest. He looked so happy, so full of life, and I was tucked away in the back, as if I didn't belong there. But it wasn't just about the wedding, it was the years of sacrifice, the countless ways I had put his needs above my own, the hours I worked to give him a better future, the love I poured into him. And now, this was what I got in return. Lily was stunning, poised beside him with a calm elegance that made me feel small and forgotten. They were perfect together, but there I was, a woman who had given everything, now forced to sit in the back, unseen, ignored. Their joy stung me more than I could bear, but I kept my face neutral, unwilling to show the pain that twisted inside me, as the Siri. Moni went on. I could feel the weight of my isolation. The vows were exchanged, and the applause followed, deafening in its joy. But for me, it was a reminder of just how far removed I had become. Daniel's life had moved on without me, and I was no longer the woman he turned to, the woman he needed. The guests around me cheered and clapped, but all I could feel was the sharp bite of rejection. I wasn't part of this celebration. I wasn't a central figure in his world anymore. I had become an afterthought, a relic of the past. Daniel and Lily walked down the aisle together, hands tightly clasped, their future unfolding before them. And I sat there, watching it all slip away. It wasn't just a wedding. It was a reminder of everything I had lost. I no longer had a place in my son's life, not in the way I once had. It was as if my role in his story had been written and erased. All that remained was a woman in the back of the room, waiting for something that would never come. The guests around me exchanged polite smiles, but I saw the truth in their eyes. They didn't see me anymore. I was just another person taking up space, a distant relative with no importance in their world. I had been replaced. I swallowed the sting of the moment, trying not to let it show, but the hurt was too much. Years of sacrifice, of giving everything to make sure Daniel had what he needed, had led to this, to being pushed aside like I didn't matter. I couldn't stay in this moment, not when it hurt so much. I couldn't stand being forgotten, being invisible to the very people I had loved. I rose quietly from my seat, heart heavy but determined. I slipped out of the reception hall, unnoticed by anyone. The cool air hit me as I stepped outside, and I let it wash over me. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt the weight of a decision begin to form inside me. I wasn't sure yet what I would do, but I knew one thing for certain. I wouldn't let myself be overlooked anymore. No one would ever again tell me where I belonged. I would reclaim my life, and somehow they would never forget me again. I'm not invisible anymore, I whispered to myself, my mind already racing with plans. The drive home from the wedding stretched on, the world outside a blur of streetlights and shadows. The weight of the night hung heavy in the car. Daniel and Lily so perfect together, while I sat in the back like an afterthought. The sting of it kept gnawing at me, turning into something sharper, harder to ignore. How had it come to this? Years of sacrifice, of giving everything for Daniel, working 2 jobs when he was a teenager, putting my life on hold, always making sure he had what he needed. And now, this? A seat at the back of the room while others took center stage. All my efforts, all my love, and this was the reward? I pulled into my driveway, the familiar house feeling foreign, cold. The walls of my home echoed with emptiness, a reflection of the distance that had grown between me and the life I'd built. It wasn't mine anymore. It hadn't felt like mine for a while. My gaze drifted to the vacant estate next door. It had sat there for months, abandoned, neglected, but tonight it looked different. I could see potential, a chance to rebuild, a fresh start. For a long moment I stared at it, imagining what it could be. The house, the garden, all of it. I could make it something beautiful, something asterisk, mine asterisk. I could take control of it, restore it, transform it into something that others couldn't overlook, something that couldn't be ignored. The thought started as a spark, but quickly grew into something more. I could turn it into a high-end rental property, make it something worth talking about. I'd triple the rent, make it a statement. You'd never see me as just the woman in the back again. I wasn't going to let anyone push me aside. Not anymore. The idea of turning the estate into a profitable space was suddenly exciting. I could picture the renovations, the fresh paint, the restored rooms, the elegant landscaping. It would be mine to control. I would make sure it became something remarkable, something that would demand attention. It wouldn't just be about the money. It would be about reclaiming my life. I took a deep breath, letting the gravity of the decision sink in. This was it. No more waiting, no more playing a supporting role in my own life. It was time to act, to take charge of my future. I grabbed my phone, my fingers trembling slightly. This was the moment I'd been waiting for, the moment I could stop being invisible. I scrolled to the real estate agent's number. I'd seen it listed on the sign outside the property. My heart raced as I pressed the dial button. The phone rang twice before a voice answered on the other end. "Hello, this is Marissa from Greenfield Realty. How can I help you today?" I cleared my throat, steadying myself. "Hi, I'm calling about the estate next door. I'm interested in making an offer." I could feel the pause on the other end, the agent surprised by the sudden interest, but I didn't care. This was my decision, and nothing would hold me back. "I'm ready," I said, my voice calm but firm. "I want to buy it." The words hung in the air for a moment, but they felt like a promise, a declaration of independence. I wasn't invisible anymore. I was taking control of my life, my future. "I'd like to make an offer," I repeated, my mind already racing with the plans that would follow. The real estate agent responded quickly, but I barely heard her. I was already picturing the estate as my own, as a symbol of everything I was about to reclaim. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally making a choice that was all mine. "The property is yours," the agent said. My heart raced. This was my chance. I leaned back in the chair, the phone still pressed to my ear. The weight of the words hit me all at once. The estate was mine. The house next door, the one that had sat abandoned for months, was now a symbol of everything I was about to change. A new beginning, a fresh start. It was mine to shape, to control. No one could take that from me. I stood up, pacing the living room, imagining the property as it would be. The house, the garden, every inch of it would be a reflection of my own rebirth. No longer would I be the woman pushed to the back of the room, invisible in her own life. I was in control now, and I wasn't about to let this chance slip away. The planning began immediately. I made calls to contractors, set up meetings, and laid out my vision. This place would be high-end, a real statement. I envisioned expansive rooms, tall windows letting in light, sleek modern interiors with a touch of classic elegance. It would be beautiful, something no one could overlook. But it wasn't just about the property. It was about me. My chance to prove that I wasn't forgotten. I would triple the rent, raise the stakes, and show everyone that I had the power to build something great. Every decision I made was mine. No more following anyone else's lead. The contractors would execute my vision. but I was the one who would shape this space. From the lighting fixtures to the landscaping, I was in charge. And it felt incredible. For the first time in years, I wasn't working for someone else's approval. This was mine. The property wasn't just a home, it was a testament to my independence, to my ability to take control of my own destiny. As the work progressed, I watched Dee with pride. The house began to take shape, just as I'd imagined. The dark, worn-out estate slowly transformed into something bright, polished, and sophisticated. I could already see the future, the people who would live there, the life it would hold. And in my mind, I was already walking through the halls, enjoying the space I had created. But the real triumph wasn't just in the property itself, it was in the act of taking control. Every choice, every moment of the renovation process reminded me that I was no longer the woman left behind. I was the one making the decisions now. It felt like reclaiming a part of myself I had lost long ago. The excitement grew as the final touches were made. The last of the furniture arrived, the windows gleamed, and the gardens were finally in full bloom. I stood outside, surveying everything I had built. It wasn't just a house, it was a statement. A declaration that I was here and I wasn't going anywhere, and then the thought hit me. How would my family react when they saw it? Would they understand what I had done? Would Daniel finally realize what I had accomplished and maybe, just maybe, see me differently? I pushed the thought aside. This wasn't for them. It was for me. I wasn't waiting for their approval anymore. This was my moment. The estate was nearly ready. Soon it would be open for tenants, and I could finally see the fruits of my labor take shape. But the anticipation of their reactions lingered. Would they notice the changes I'd made in myself? Would they see the woman who had reclaimed her life? Or would they continue to see the person they'd left behind? I took one last look at the house, proud of the transformation. Soon it would be my mark on the world, and I was ready for whatever came next. Triple the rent? Are you sure? The agent asked. I smiled. Yes, triple it. I could hear the hesitation in her voice, the disbelief, but I wasn't wavering. This wasn't just about the property. It was a statement. I wasn't some passive observer anymore. This was my chance to show everyone, especially myself, that property was nearly finished, and now it was time to make the real mark, triple the rent. I wanted tenants who would see the value in what I had created, high-value tenants who would recognize that this wasn't just a house. It was a symbol of my power. The agent seemed reluctant, but she agreed, and the plan moved forward. As I hung up the phone, a wave of satisfaction washed over me. Every decision I made was mine. I wasn't waiting for approval anymore. Not from Daniel, not from anyone. I was making my own path. I walked through the estate once more, surveying the progress. The walls were pristine, the floors gleaming, the once neglected yard now a carefully manicured garden, bursting with color. The transformation was nearly complete. It was exactly what I'd imagined, and more. With every decision I made, my confidence grew. I could picture the kind of tenants this space would attract. Successful, professional people who would appreciate the luxury of the estate, who would understand the worth of what I had created. This wasn't just about turning a profit, it was about showing the world that I could do this on my own. I was no longer at the mercy of anyone's expectations. Walking through the rooms, I envisioned the tenants moving in, the bustling energy of people living in a space I had built. There was a quiet thrill in knowing that the place would be filled with life, all because of me. It wasn't just a business venture, it was my claim to independence, my way of saying that I could stand on my own. The work had been intense, but the emotional weight was what had really changed. Every floorboard laid, every stroke of paint, every fixture chosen, each of these felt like a step closer to becoming the woman I wanted to be. The woman I knew I was deep down, the one who had spent too many years silencing herself, the woman who would never again sit in the back. I was alive and I with possibility. But then, during one of my meetings with the real estate agent, she dropped a bombshell. "Martha, there's something I need to discuss with you," she said, her voice unusually tense. "The deed for the property has a clause I didn't catch before. It restricts the rent increase you're planning. It limits how much you can charge for the units, and it may make your plan unworkable." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I could feel my stomach drop as the weight of her words sank in. The very thing I had been so certain about, my big move, the one thing that would make this entire venture worthwhile, was now in jeopardy. A clause. A legal restriction I hadn't accounted for. The agent continued, but the words blurred. All I could think of was how close I had been to having everything, to finally proving my worth, to having control over my life. And now, just when I thought I was finally on the right path, this legal restriction, threatened to undo it all. I walked away from the meeting feeling the anger and frustration bubble inside me. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. I had made decisions, I had taken control, and now this clause was threatening to undo everything I had worked for. But I wasn't about to let it stop me. I wasn't going to let some clause ruin the vision I had worked so hard to create. I needed answers, and I needed them fast. I made a decision. I would seek legal advice. I had to know if there was a way around this. If this clause could be challenged. I wasn't going to let this setback define me. I had come too far. As I sat in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel, the weight of the situation pressed down on me. Would this bold move survive? Or had I just made a grave mistake? I didn't know the answer yet, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't backing down now. "What were you thinking, Mom?" Daniel's voice cracked through the quiet of the evening, sharp and full of disbelief. I had expected this. Daniel and Lily, too, both upset, both questioning my decisions. I wasn't surprised. I had made a choice that would stir everything up. I had bought the estate next door, and now I was pushing forward with plans that would change everything. I stood up slowly, meeting his gaze. I was thinking it's time I build something for myself, something I control. His face twisted with frustration. "You bought that estate without even talking to us? And now you're hiking the rent? What were you thinking?" I was thinking, I'm tired of being invisible, I replied calmly. I've spent my life sacrificing for others. It's time to do something for me. Daniel's anger flared. You're being reckless, Mom. You're throwing everything away, your family, your relationships, just to prove some point. Lily, standing just behind Daniel, echoed his sentiment. This is a mistake. You're acting selfishly. You can't just do whatever you want. I didn't flinch. I had expected this, and now I was ready to defend myself. This is my decision. It's not about anyone else. It's about me finally taking control of my life, something I should have done years ago. This estate is mine, and I'm going to make it something great. Daniel was fuming, his words coming fast and hard. This is all about you. You think this is going to fix everything? You're going to lose everyone in the process. You'll alienate your own family. Maybe I'm done trying to please everyone, I said, my voice firm, unwavering. I'm building something for myself. If you can't see that, then I'm sorry. But I'm not asking for your approval anymore. Lily's face twisted with frustration. You think this will make you PY? You're going to lose so much more in the process. This isn't the answer. I held her gaze without backing down. Maybe I don't need your approval either. I'm done waiting for it. Daniel was silent for a moment, his fists clenched at his sides. His eyes narrowed, and when he finally spoke, his voice was laced with warning. If you go through with this, there's no coming back. The family will never forgive you. His words hit harder than I expected, but they didn't break me. I had spent my whole life seeking approval, walking on eggshells around their expectations, but not anymore. Not now. I'm not afraid of that, I said quietly, because I'm not doing this for the family. I'm doing it for me. The silence that followed felt heavy, but I stood tall. They could be angry, they could be disappointed, but I had finally found something for myself. I wasn't going to apologize for that. Daniel turned, his back stiff with anger, and Lily followed. The door slammed behind them, leaving me alone. But this time there was no doubt, no hesitation. This was my choice, and I wasn't going to back down. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of their words, but also a sense of relief. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid of losing them, of standing alone. I was building something. For myself. I wasn't afraid anymore. I never thought it would come to this, I whispered as I held the letter from Daniel's lawyer. The words on the page blurred in front of me, but I could still make out the demand: reverse the rent hike or face legal action. I sat down slowly, the weight of the situation sinking in. This wasn't just about the estate anymore. It was about everything I'd worked for, everything I'd fought to reclaim, my independence, my life. I'd expected this. I knew Daniel would never let me make a bold move without trying to stop me, but a part of me had hoped it wouldn't come to this. I wasn't sure how to feel. Part of me wanted to crumble, to apologize, to back down. But the other part, the stronger part, knew I couldn't. Not now. Not after everything I'd done. I picked up my phone, dialing Daniel's number with trembling hands. He answered almost immediately, his voice heavy with anger. "Mom, what were you thinking? Do you understand what you've done?" His words hit harder than I'd expected, but I stood firm. "I'm thinking that it's time I built something for myself, something I control." "You think you're building something? You're tearing the family apart," he shouted. "You've completely disregarded us, and now you're threatening everything we've worked for. Do you even care what this is doing to us?" I closed my eyes, steadying myself. I care about me. I'm finally doing something for myself. "You're selfish. You're throwing away relationships for the sake of some property," Daniel countered. "You've hurt us all, Mom. You're alienating everyone." I sighed, my heart heavy. Maybe I'm done trying to please everyone. I'm not asking for anyone's approval anymore. I'm doing this for me. Lily's voice echoed in the background, joining Daniel's outrage. "This is a mistake. You're making everything worse. You can't just do what you want without thinking of the consequences." Their words were like daggers, but I didn't flinch. I had spent my entire life worrying about their expectations, their feelings, but not anymore. "I don't need your approval," I said quietly but firmly. "I'm not doing this to hurt anyone. I'm doing it for myself." The silence on the other end of the line felt thick, heavy. Daniel's voice returned, now colder, more calculated. "You've crossed a line, Mom. If you go through wit, there's no going back. The family will never forgive you." The words stung, but I didn't let them break me. I had spent too many years trying to fit into a role that wasn't mine. I wasn't going to apologize for finally stepping into my own. "I'm not afraid of that," I said, my voice calm and resolute, "because I'm not doing this for the family. I'm doing it for me." The line went silent again, and I knew that whatever bond I had with Daniel and Lily was now strained beyond repair. But I didn't feel regret. I felt something else, something stronger, the faintest sense of freedom. Daniel's voice returned, sharp and full of finality. "You'll lose everything, Mom. The family, your future, all of it. If you go through with this, you'll never be part of this family again." I let his words hang in the air, feeling the weight of them but not allowing them to control me. I had made my decision, and nothing, not even his threats, was going to change that. I hung up without saying another word. The silence that followed was deafening, but in it, I found something I hadn't felt in a long time: strength. I glanced at the letter again, the legal threat looming over me. It wasn't just a demand for a rent reduction, it was a challenge to everything I had worked for, everything I had claimed. I could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on me, but I didn't waver. I wasn't backing down now. Not after all I had sacrificed, all I had fought for. The phone buzzed in my hand, pulling me from my thoughts. Another message from Daniel's lawyer. My stomach churned, but I was resolute. The stakes had never been higher, but I wasn't afraid of what was coming next. I had already made my choice, and I wasn't going to let anyone, especially not family, make me second-guess it. "I never thought it would come to this," I whispered, holding the lawyer's letter in my hands. The words were clear: reverse the rent hike or face legal action. But it wasn't just about the letter. It was everything I had worked for, everything I had fought to reclaim. My independence, my life, were now on the line. I sat down, the weight of the situation heavy in my chest. I had known Daniel would react this way. He'd never let me make a bold decision without pushing back. But a part of me had hoped it wouldn't come to this rift between us, this isolation. My phone buzzed, breaking my thoughts. I picked it up, but the screen didn't show Daniel's number. It was a friend, someone I'd known for years, someone who had seen me through the highs and lows. "I don't know if I can do this," I said, my voice cracking. "What if I lose him for good? What if this costs me my son?" Her voice was soft but firm. "Martha, you've been invisible for too long. You've always put others first. You deserve this independence. No one will understand unless you do." Her words offered some comfort, but the doubt still gnawed at me. Was it really worth it? Standing up for myself was costing me more than I expected. Daniel's silence was becoming unbearable, and Lily wasn't speaking to me either. The house felt like it was closing in around me. I had spent my whole life sacrificing for my family, but now, standing up for myself seemed to come at a price. I sat in silence, pondering, when the doorbell rang. It was Claire, a friend I had known for years. She had sensed the weight of the situation and came to sit with me. We talked for hours, about the letter, about Daniel's anger, about the emotional toll this fight was taking on me. She didn't offer solutions, she just listened. And somehow, that was enough. The following days were filled with tension. I checked my phone constantly, waiting for a message from Daniel. But the silence stretched on, and my fear of losing him only deepened. I started to wonder if I had made the right choice. Was this battle worth losing him? Then, a message appeared on my screen. "Lily wants to meet. She's hoping for a reso. Lucian." The words stopped me in my tracks. A resolution? Was this my chance to make things right, or would this meeting only highlight the chasm between us? Part of me felt a flicker of hope, but another part was wary. Would they expect me to back down? Would they want me to reverse the rent hike, to apologize for fighting for my own life? I felt torn. I was fighting for my independence, for something I had never had before. But if I lost my son in the process, would it all be worth it? I didn't know what would happen when I met with Lily, but I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't go back. I had spent too many years silencing myself, trying to meet everyone else's expectations. I wasn't going to do that anymore. I was ready to meet Lily. I drove to the location with a mix of anticipation and fear. The unknown loomed in front of me, but for the first time, I felt like I wasn't losing myself in the process. As I stepped out of the car, my phone buzzed again. It was a message from Daniel. My heart skipped a beat, but I didn't check it. I was done waiting for permission. This fight, this journey, was about me. I wasn't afraid of what came next. I was ready to face whatever awaited me. I never thought I'd be the one to make the first move, but sometimes a mother has to do what's necessary. I sat down across from Lily at the small cafe, feeling the weight of our strained relationship pressing down on me. Her nervous smile didn't reach her eyes, and I could see the uncertainty in the way she held her coffee cup. "Martha," she began, her voice soft, "I'm sorry for everything that's happened, for the way we treated you." I took a deep breath, the words surprising me. I wasn't expecting an apology, but I appreciate it. Lily shifted in her seat, clearly struggling with her next words. "I see now how you felt ignored, pushed aside. I've been focused on Daniel and his needs, and I didn't see what was happening with you." Her words stung, cutting deeper than I had expected. I had spent years feeling like an afterthought, my sacrifices overlooked, my feelings ignored. "It's not just about being overlooked, Lily," I said, keeping my voice steady. "It's about how I felt invisible for so long, like I didn't matter." She looked at me, guilt washing over her. "I know. I've been selfish. I should have done more to support you, but I didn't. And now I want to fix things between us." Part of me wanted to believe her, to soften and let her back in, but the pain of years of neglect still weighed heavily on me. "You've hurt me, Lily," I said quietly, "and I can't just let that go. But I'm willing to try, if we can be honest with each other." Lily nodded, a tear slipping down her cheek. "I'm sorry, truly." I paused, my mind racing. The apology was unexpected, and though I wanted to believe it, the walls I had built around myself were not so easily torn down. "I'm not lowering the rent," I said firmly, my voice steady. "This isn't just about the estate. It's about me finally standing up for myself. I've spent my whole life trying to meet everyone else's expectations. I won't do that anymore." Her face fell, disappointment clouding her expression. "Martha, please. Daniel's struggling. He needs that extra income. I know it's hard, but he's not doing well. This isn't just about you anymore." The words hit me like a punch. Daniel was struggling? My mind spun. How had I missed this? Had I been so focused on my own fight for independence that I hadn't seen what he was going through? The thought of him silently suffering made my stomach churn. I opened my mouth to speak, but the words didn't come. I had come here ready to defend my decision, to stand my ground, but now everything felt more complicated. This wasn't just about money. It was about my son's well-being. Lily's voice softened. "He's scared, Martha, and he needs help. He's not asking for it, but he's afraid he's losing everything. We both need to do better." I looked at her, uncertainty creeping in. Could I soften my stance? Could I find a way to help without sacrificing everything I had fought for? The silence between us grew thick as I tried to process everything she had said. The rent hike had started as a way to assert my independence, to finally do something for myself after years of giving to others. But now, the stakes had changed. If Daniel really was struggling, could I stand firm on this? Was this really about the money, or was it about something deeper? I was torn. I wanted to stay strong, but the weight of family was heavy on my shoulders. Was this fight worth losing my son, or was there a way to balance my independence with the needs of the family I still loved? The question lingered in the air, and as I looked at Lily, I could see the hope in her eyes. But I wasn't sure if this was enough to change my decision. Would I soften my stance, or would I continue the fight for the future I was carving for myself? Just then, my phone buzzed in my bag, pulling me from my thoughts. Another message from Daniel. My heart skipped a beat, but I didn't reach for it. I wasn't sure if I was ready to face the truth of what was coming next. The future, it seemed, was hanging in the balance. I never thought I'd be the one to make the first move, but sometimes a mother has to do what's necessary. I sat across from Lily at the small cafe, feeling the weight of years of tension between us. She looked at me with a mixture of guilt and hope, her hands clasped tightly around her coffee cup. "Martha," she began, her voice shaky. "I'm sorry for everything that's happened, for the way we've treated you." Her apology took me by surprise, and I breathed deeply, gathering my thoughts. "I wasn't expecting this," I said wetly. "But I appreciate it." Lily shifted in her seat, eyes downcast. "I see now how you felt ignored. I've been so focused on Daniel's needs that I didn't realize how much I was neglecting you. I'm sorry for that." Her words stung, but I had to admit they cut deeper than I expected. I'd spent years feeling like an afterthought, my sacrifices overlooked. "It's not just about being ignored," I said, keeping my voice steady. "It's about feeling like I didn't matter." Lily's expression softened, and a tear slipped down her cheek. "I've been selfish. I see that now. I should have supported you better. I want to make things right." I wanted to believe her, but the years of neglect weren't so easily forgiven. "You've hurt me, Lily," I said quietly, "but I'm willing to try if we can be honest with each other." Lily nodded, wiping her eyes. "I truly am sorry. I want to fix this." I paused, the weight of her apology hanging in the air, but I wasn't about to give in easily. "I'm not lowering the rent," I said, my voice firm. "This isn't just about the estate. This is about me standing up for myself. I've spent my life trying to meet everyone else's expectations. I won't do that anymore." Her face fell, disappointment clouding her features. "Martha, please. Daniel's struggling. He needs the extra income. I know it's hard, but this isn't just about you anymore." The words hit me like a punch. Daniel was struggling. My mind raced. How had I missed this? Had I been so focused on my own fight for independence that I hadn't seen his pain? The thought of him suffering silently made my stomach churn. I opened my mouth to speak but couldn't find the words. I had come here prepared to stand my ground, but now everything felt more complicated. This wasn't just about money. It was about my son's well-being. Lily's voice softened. "He's scared, Martha, and he needs help. He's afraid of losing everything. We both need to do better." The silence between us stretched as I processed her words. Could I soften my stance? Was there a way to help without sacrificing everything I had fought for? I felt torn. I had spent so long fighting for my independence. But now, the fight felt bigger than just me. The rent hike had been my way of asserting control. But if Daniel was truly struggling, could I really stand firm on this? Was this really about the money or something deeper? I looked at Lily, unsure if I could let go of my pride. I had to decide. Could I continue to fight for myself, or should I put my son's needs first? Just then, my phone buzzed, pulling me from my thoughts. It was a message from Daniel. My heart skipped a beat. I stared at the screen, unsure if I was ready to face the truth of what was coming next. The future felt uncertain, but one thing was clear. This was no longer just a fight for the estate. It was a fight for my family, for my place in their lives, and for the person I was becoming. The letter came early one morning, its harsh words sitting in front of me like an ultimatum. Daniel's legal team had offered a settlement, lower the rent or face a legal battle that could cost me everything. The weight of the words sank in. After everything I'd fought for, after reclaiming control of my life, now I was being told to give it all up. Lowering the rent meant losing my autonomy, losing the very thing I had fought so hard to keep. I sat at my desk staring at the letter, my heart heavy. The exhaustion hit me like a wave. I'd been so sure, so steadfast in my decision, but now the pressure was mounting. Could I really turn this offer down? Could I continue this fight knowing that it might cost me my relationship with Daniel, my family? The emotional toll was overwhelming, and I felt torn in two. My phone buzzed, snapping me from my thoughts. I opened the message. It was from Daniel. "You're making a mistake. Lower the rent and we can fix this. If you don't, you'll lose everything, including me." I swallowed hard, my stomach sinking. His words stung, but there was something else buried in them, a plea, a hope that I would give in. I stared at the screen, heart aching. But I couldn't let guilt drive me back into submission. This wasn't just about money. It was about my independence, my ability to make my own choices, no matter how painful they were. I stood up and paced the room, the weight of the decision pressing on me. I had worked too hard to reclaim my life. The estate wasn't just a property. It was my symbol of taking back control, of no longer living for others. I had promised myself I wouldn't let anyone strip that away, not even Daniel. But as the pressure mounted, I felt the pull of guilt. My son. The thought of losing him, of pushing him away permanently, gnawed at me. It wasn't just about the estate anymore. It was about the emotional cost of standing my ground. I couldn't let his anger break me. I couldn't let his pain dictate my actions. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to give in. I wouldn't lower the rent. The phone rang, and I knew it was Daniel. My heart raced as I answered. "Martha," his voice was cold, filled with frustration. "You've received the settlement offer. Please just take it. Lower the rent. It's the only way to fix this. You're risking everything." I swallowed my doubts. "I'm not lowering the rent, Daniel. This is about more than money. It's about standing up for myself. I've spent my entire life trying to meet everyone else's expectations. I'm not going to do that anymore." There was a long pause, and then his voice dropped, icy. "You don't get it. If you go through with this, you will lose everything. You'll lose me." The words felt like a gut punch, but I stood firm. Maybe I already have, but I'm not going back. This is my life now. I'm not going to apologize for fighting for it. His silence was deafening. I could feel the rift widening between us, but I refused to be shaken. I can't help you if you won't help yourself, I added quietly. Daniel's voice came back, lower and more controlled. You've made your choice. Just know there's no turning back. I set the phone down slowly, my hands trembling, but my resolve remained. The pain of his words lingered, but the knowledge that I was standing up for myself helped steady my heart. As I sat back in the chair, the phone buzzed again. Another message from Daniel. But this time, I didn't check it. I had already made my choice. I wasn't going to back down. The pressure was intense, and the battle was far from over. But I realized something profound. This fight wasn't about property. It was about me, about reclaiming my life, my worth. And I wasn't going to let anyone, not even my son, take that from me. The phone sat there, silent for what felt like hours. But eventually, it buzzed again. Another message from Daniel. I had expected this. His persistence, his attempt to reel me back into his world of expectations. But this time, something was different. I wasn't waiting for permission anymore. I was finally free of that weight, and with that freedom came a quiet sense of peace I hadn't known in years. The estate had become more than just a property. It was a symbol of everything I was rebuilding. Every dollar that came in, every tenant who signed a lease, was a reminder of how far I had come. The place wasn't just generating income. It was generating something far more valuable. Confidence. The confidence that I could stand on my own, that I didn't need anyone's approval to make my decisions, especially not Daniel's. I looked out at the property, the towering trees and manicured lawn that stretched out before me. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was trying to prove something. I had already proven it to myself. I had. I thought about the messages I'd been getting from women, strangers mostly. Many of them sent words of encouragement, telling me how inspiring my fight had been. Some even said I was a role model. It felt surreal, but I began to realize that maybe for the first time, I wasn't just living for myself. I was living for others, too, for the women who had fought similar battles in silence, who had been told they couldn't. I was a reminder that it was possible to change your life, no matter how old you were. The estate wasn't just a piece of land anymore. It was my declaration that I was capable, that I deserved to take up space in the world. And for the first time in years, it felt good to be in the spotlight of my own life, not playing a supporting role to everyone else. As the weeks passed, my emotional strength deepened. There were still moments of doubt, sure, times when the pressure of standing firm in my decision weighed me down. But each time, I reminded myself that this was my choice. I wasn't a passive player in my own life anymore. I had made this happen, all on my own. Daniel hadn't reached out since the last heated conversation. I knew he was angry, hurt, but there was nothing more I could do. He was the one who had chosen his path, and I was the one who had chosen mine. There were no guarantees that we would ever reconcile, and though that realization had stung at first, I had come to accept it. But then, just as I had finally started to find peace, I received a text from him. My heart skipped a beat as I read the first few words. Martha, I know things have been hard between us. I paused, the weight of the message pulling me in. There it was, the offer I had been waiting for, the chance to make things right. Or so it seemed. I didn't know what he wanted from me. A resolution? A concession? Maybe it was his way of testing the waters to see if I'd lower the rent, to see if I was ready to give up my newfound strength for the sake of family. The familiar doubt crept back in, but this time it wasn't as strong. I had learned that my value didn't come from his approval or anyone else's, but the idea of reconciliation, of putting our family back together, was tempting. Was I ready to face the possibility of forgiveness, even if it meant sacrificing some of the autonomy I had worked so hard for? I set my phone down, taking a deep breath. This wasn't just about the estate anymore. This was about me. The phone buzzed again, and I knew it was another message from Daniel. I didn't open it right away. This decision had to be mine. Free from the pressure of others. I had spent too long living for the approval of those around me. Now I had to make a choice that was about me. As I stared at the phone, I realized the road ahead was just as uncertain as the one I had already walked. But no matter what came next, I knew one thing for sure. This fight had been worth it. I had found something I hadn't known I was searching for. And maybe, just maybe, I was finally ready to face what lay ahead. The choice was mine. "I'm not going back," I said aloud as I looked out at my new life, the estate standing tall as a symbol of everything I had fought for. It had become more than just property. It was my reclaiming of power, a declaration that I was living on my terms. The decision to keep the rent unchanged had been difficult, but it had also been mine. A decision rooted in my newfound independence. When the message from Daniel came, I had expected it. His persistence, his desire to pull me back into his world of expectations, was nothing new, but this time something was different. I was no longer waiting for his approval. I had come too far to turn back. I agreed to meet him, but only on my terms. I needed him to understand that this conversation wasn't about guilt or manipulation. It was about me asserting my boundaries and refusing to compromise my autonomy. When I walked into the cafe, Daniel looked different. He seemed older, his usual confidence replaced by a quiet hesitance. The anger that had fueled our last conversation was gone. Instead, I saw something else. Regret. I could feel it in the air between us, thick and unresolved. "Martha," he started, his voice softer than usual. "I've had a lot of time to think about everything. I've made a lot of mistakes, and I want to say I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you." His apology hung in the air. For a moment, I felt the weight of the years between us, the years I had spent trying to make him see me, to make him understand my sacrifices. But this time, I wasn't going to fall into the familiar trap. I had worked hard to get here, to stand on my own, and I wasn't going to let his regret undo all of it. "I appreciate your apology, Daniel," I said, my voice calm but firm, "but I need you to understand something. I've spent my life trying to meet everyone else's needs, and I can't do that anymore. This isn't just about the estate or the rent. It's about me. I won't lower the rent. I won't compromise who I am to make you or anyone else comfortable." His face fell slightly, but there was no anger in his expression, just a quiet acceptance. "I understand," he said, his voice soft. "I see now what I've done. I was afraid of losing you." The familiar pull of guilt gnawed at me, but I squashed it down. This wasn't about me losing him. It was about me finally living for myself. I had spent too many years letting my life be defined by the people around and me. This was my time. "I can't help you if you won't help yourself," I said, my tone firm. "I've given everything for you and for this family, but I can't do that anymore. I've fought for this life, and I'm not going to let you pull me back into that old role. I need to keep moving forward." He nodded slowly, his expression thoughtful. "I've been selfish," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry." For a moment, there was silence between us. I could see the regret in his eyes, but it wasn't enough to change the fact that our relationship had shifted. I had changed, and that change wasn't something I could take back. "I'm not asking for your forgiveness, Daniel," I said quietly, "but I'm willing to try to find a way to move forward. We don't need to fix everything overnight." His face softened, the bitterness from before replaced with something gentler. "I'm not asking you to. I just want you to know I see you now, for who you really are." I nodded, feeling a strange sense of peace settle over me. This wasn't a resolution, but it was a start. The conversation had shifted from anger to respect. For the first time in a long time, we were talking as equals. As I left the cafe, my phone buzzed again. It was a message from Daniel, an apology this time, more heartfelt than before. But I didn't open it right away. The decision to move forward was mine to make. I didn't need his validation anymore. I had found my strength, and I was going to keep going. One step at a time. The road ahead wasn't clear, but I was no longer afraid of it. The choice was mine, and this time, I was in control. "Let's start over," Daniel said, his voice softer than I had expected. I studied him carefully, aware that this wasn't the same man who had pushed me into a corner before, but I wasn't the same woman either. I had changed. And this time, the rules would be different. The East. Tate had become more than just a property to me. It was a symbol of everything I had fought for. Every dollar, every tenant, was a reminder of how far I'd come. The decisions I had made were mine alone, and I wasn't going to let anyone, not even Daniel, take that from me. I had agreed to meet with him, but only on my terms. He needed to understand that this conversation wasn't about guilt or manipulation. It was about setting boundaries and making it clear that I was in control of my life. When I walked into the cafe, Daniel seemed different. His usual confidence was replaced with a quiet hesitancy. He wasn't angry anymore, but there was an undercurrent of regret in his eyes. I could feel the weight of our past between us, but this time I wasn't going to let it control me. "Martha," he began, his voice soft, "I've had a lot of time to think. I've made mistakes, and I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you." His apology hung in the air, and for a moment I could feel the years of tension between us, the years I had spent trying to prove myself, to get him to see my sacrifices. But this time, I wasn't going to fall for it. I wasn't going to let his regret change my path. "I appreciate your apology, Daniel, I said, my voice steady. "But I need you to understand something. I spent my whole life trying to meet other people's needs. I can't do that anymore. This isn't just about the estate. It's about me. I won't lower the rent, and I won't compromise who I am to make anyone comfortable. Not even you." Daniel's face fell, but he didn't argue. "I understand," he said softly. "I see now what I've done. I was afraid of losing you." The guilt threatened to creep in, but I pushed it aside. This wasn't about me losing him. It was about me reclaiming myself. I had spent too long living for others. Now I was finally living for me. "I can't help you if you won't help yourself," I said, my voice firm. "I've given everything to this family, but I can't keep doing it. I've fought for my independence, and I'm not going to let you pull me back into old patterns." He nodded slowly, looking down for a moment. "I've been selfish. I'm sorry." I could see the sincerity in his eyes, but I wasn't ready to fully forgive him. Not yet. "I'm not asking for your forgiveness," I said, "but I'm willing to find a way forward. We don't need to fix everything in one conversation." Daniel seemed to accept that. His demeanor softened, and for the first time there was a sense of mutual respect between us. We weren't enemies anymore, but we weren't exactly allies either. The conversation shifted, and we talked about the future, carefully. I wasn't ready to reconcile fully, but I could see a new path emerging, one where we could rebuild our relationship, but only if we both respected each other's boundaries. As I walked away from the cafe, my phone buzzed again. It was another message from Daniel, an apology that felt more genuine than the last. But this time, I didn't open it. I had already made my decision. I didn't need his approval to move forward. At the road ahead wasn't clear, but I wasn't afraid of it anymore. The choice was mine. I was in control. A few days later, as I continued to work on the estate, Daniel surprised me. He reached out again, not with an apology, but with an offer, a partnership. He wanted to work with me, to build something together. My heart skipped a beat. I hadn't expected this. For a moment, I wondered if this was a genuine attempt to respect my independence, or if it was another way for him to try to control me. I didn't know what to make of it, but one thing was clear. I was finally in control of my own life. Whatever happened next, the decision would be mine. I looked at the offer one more time, my mind racing. Could this be the beginning of a new chapter for us? Or would it be another trap? I didn't know. But I was ready to move forward, slowly, cautiously, but always on my own terms. I've never felt more at peace, I thought, gazing around at the estate I had built. What once felt like a burden now stood as a testament to everything I had worked for. It was thriving, every tenant, every new development, a reflection of my resilience. The estate wasn't just property anymore. It had become my declaration of independence, of strength, and of the life I had reclaimed. As the months passed, I found balance in my life. My relationship with Daniel had evolved too, but not in the way I once expected. It wasn't about fixing everything or returning to the way we were. It was about respect, about understanding that we could both exist in each other's lives without letting the past control us. The bitterness between us had faded, replaced by something much more grounded. The estate was flourishing, but I didn't stop there. I started mentoring other women who felt trapped, just as I once had. I'd been in their shoes, silent, invisible, always trying to meet everyone else's expectations, and now I could offer them the tools to break free. Watching them reclaim their own power felt like a gift I had been waiting to give for years. I didn't just want to build a successful business, I wanted to create something meaningful. I started to look beyond the estate, exploring new ventures that felt aligned with my values. I wasn't just making money. I was building a legacy of empowerment and fulfillment. I became more involved in my community, helping organize events, donating to local charities, and supporting initiatives that focused on personal growth and collective success. For the first time, my life felt complete. I wasn't living for anyone else's approval. I wasn't shrinking to fit into someone else's expectations. This was my time, and it felt good. I looked at the estate, a physical manifestation of my independence, and for the first time in years, I truly felt at peace. Then, a message from Daniel arrived. It had been a while since we'd had a deep conversation, and I was surprised by the tone of the message. It wasn't about the past. He was offering me something new, an opportunity to collaborate on a business venture, one that could expand both of our horizons. It was unexpected, and for a moment, I hesitated. I had spent so much time breaking free from the past, building something that was truly mine. Could I really step back into a working relationship with him? Had I truly outgrown that dynamic, or was this a chance to build something even bigger? I sat with the decision, unsure of what to make of it. My mind raced. The project had potential to expand my reach and deepen my impact, but it also had risks. Would I be able to maintain the independence I had fought so hard for? Or would this new chapter risk pulling me back into old patterns? The phone buzzed again, and I let out a breath, trying to calm the turmoil inside me. Whatever this was, it would be my decision. For the first time in my life, I wasn't relying on anyone's validation. I had learned to trust myself, to know that I could build a life I was proud of, one step at a time. I looked out the window at the estate. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the lawn. The world ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. I was in control, and no matter what came next, I was ready. The future was mine to shape, and I wasn't afraid of whatever came next. I set the phone down, still unsure, but I wasn't worried. I knew I would make the right choice. Just as I had made every other decision that had brought me here, the road ahead was mine to walk, and I wasn't about to let anyone take that from me. This is just the beginning, I whispered to myself as I stood at the edge of the estate, my eyes sweeping over the land I had transformed. It was hard to believe how far I had come. What once seemed like an overwhelming task had now become my greatest triumph. The estate, once a reflection of my struggle, had grown into a thriving business, and so had I. The place wasn't just flourishing. It was mine in a way that I had never imagined. The sun was setting behind the trees, casting long shadows across the manicured lawn. The warm, golden light felt like a reward for the hard work I'd put in, and I could see now that it wasn't just the property that had transformed. It was me. I had rebuilt my life from the ground up, piece by piece, decision by decision. Each tenant, each renovation, each step I took was a step toward independence and self-respect. Looking back, the journey hadn't been easy, There were moments of doubt, moments when I questioned if I had made the right choice, but I knew now that everything I had gone through had been necessary. It had shaped me into the woman I was today, the woman standing here, confident and in control of her future. The relationship with Daniel and Lily had come full circle too. It hadn't been easy. There were still times when old patterns tried to creep in, but we had all learned to respect each other's boundaries. Daniel, in particular, had surprised me. Our relationship wasn't perfect, but it was real. He had come to respect my choices, to understand that I wasn't asking for his approval anymore. We were learning how to exist in each other's lives without the old expectations. The bitterness had faded, replaced by a new understanding. Lily, too, had found her own space in my life. Our relationship was still evolving, but I could see how much she respected my growth. I wasn't just her mother anymore. I was a role model, a woman who had fought for herself, and I could see how much that had impacted her. But it wasn't just about family. The lessons I'd learned about independence, strength, and self-respect weren't just guiding me in my relationships. They were guiding every step of my journey. I'd realized that true freedom didn't come from anyone else's approval. It came from making decisions for myself, owning those choices, and not apologizing for them. With the estate now firmly established, I had more time to focus on new ventures. I had begun exploring new business opportunities that aligned with my values, projects that weren't just about making money, but about creating something meaningful, something that would leave a lasting impact. I wasn't afraid of failure anymore. I had already conquered my biggest obstacle: myself. As I stood there, I thought about the many women I had met through my mentorship programs, the women who had walked in my shoes, who had felt invisible or trapped. I was helping them rebuild their lives the way I had rebuilt mine, and it felt like a full circle of its own. They were finding their voices, their strength, and it was one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. The future seemed limitless now. I had built something that was truly mine, a business, a life, a vision for the future that was no longer shaped by the past. It wasn't just about the estate anymore. It was about everything that lay ahead, all the possibilities I had yet to explore. But just as I was ready to take the next step, my phone buzzed again. It was another message from Daniel. This time, there was no apology, no offer of collaboration. It was something different, something I hadn't expected, an opportunity, a chance to expand my influence even further. He was offering me something that could change everything. I hesitated for a moment, the weight of the decision sinking in. This was it, the moment I had been waiting for. But as I looked out at the estate, I knew that whatever I chose, the decision would be mine. No more waiting for approval. No more playing by anyone else's rules. I looked at the message one more time, my mind racing with possibilities. This could be the opportunity I had dreamed of, or it could be a step back into a world I had already outgrown. I wasn't sure, but one thing was certain. I was no longer afraid of the unknown. With a deep breath, I hit send asterisk on my reply. The future was mine to shape. Whatever came next, I was ready. And for the first time, I felt a peace I had never known.